Hello, everyone. Tom Morelli here with Wilqo, and I'm joined by Tiffany Jacobelli, one of our mortgage process specialists. Tiffany, how are you doing today?
Hey, Tom, I'm doing great. Thanks for having me.
Excellent. So, Tiffany, the other day we were talking about uh, everyone has always been waiting for when are volumes going to pick back up, or when I want to scale my business, what is that going to look like? And you brought up some really interesting points about what lenders could be doing proactively to get in front of some of the inevitable pain that comes with having to scale your operations. So you've been on the front lines. What is it like when mortgage volume suddenly increases?
Well, I mean, first of all, every lender says they want more volume, and we truly do want more volume. But the question really is what happens when that volume actually shows up, right? So on
Mhm.
paper, increased volume sounds like the answer. It's supposed to solve all of our problems, right? But it doesn't. So so it doesn't, it feels good in the beginning, right? It feels
Mhm.
great. Everybody's busy, you're going through the motions, and then things start to happen, right? The cracks inevitably just start to show,
Mhm.
unless you've spent the time to plan.
So when you say like the cracks start to show, what would be some examples and common pain points that you've observed?
Yeah. So, I mean, you've got the same number of people, right? You're doing things the exact same way. When you increase volume 10, 15, 20%, what naturally happens, right? You try to fit that same work in your normal 8 hour day. So shortcuts happen, steps are overlooked, errors happen. Uh, you reach out to the customer asking for the same thing more than once, right? That's one of the more like top customer complaints. They ask me for the same thing more than once. Teams stop talking to each other. The communication halts because people are just in overdrive mode and they just work.
Mhm. So to summarize that, people inherently start to feel rushed, and communication can break down both internally and externally because in instances where, oh, I reached out for information and it took that person a little while to get back to me. It was no big problem because when that came back, I could just pick it up and run with it. The problem is when volume increases, all of a sudden you've started working on five other things that falls to the back of the line. And the longer that communication sits untended to, it can go unnoticed, it could lose context, and that's where the problems start to double down on each other.
Right. Right. Because the increase in volume is really the ultimate stress test, right?
Mhm. Gotcha. So then, now that we understand some of those problems that do happen, while things may be a little bit quieter, what should lenders be focusing on to prevent those things from happening again?
Well, it's preparing for those challenges before they come emergencies. So a strong leader is going to spend the time thinking about the scenario that hasn't happened yet. Or when they do happen, they ask themselves really difficult questions like, why did this happen and how we can prevent it? And that's something that I do often, right? A lot of times people feel like, oh, I'm going to get in trouble. And I just want to solve the problem, move on. And then I want to figure out what caused this to happen and what can we do to stop it, right? So
And actually,
they,
Tiffany, you bring up a really interesting point there, is everyone tends towards action immediately, but what you're saying is the first step of being proactive is do kind of that retrospective and say, okay, the last time we had this scenario, what happened, what didn't work? Hold that mirror up to the process and use that as a starting point of, okay, where is our next plan of attack?
yeah, I think so. And listen, there's going to be certain things that are one off. So when challenges, we'll call them, arise, I take a really deep look at it, every single one, right? And I'm trying to figure out, is this a one off? Is this never going to happen again, or is this something that could potentially recur?
Mhm.
I think typically I'm saying, let's fix it, right? Because there's a customer on the other end. Let's fix it. Let's figure out what we have to do, close this out, and then figure out what we need to do to prevent it from happening. So,
Sure.
and honestly, I would even challenge my own assumptions. Is this a one off? How do I know it's a one off? Right. So, spend a little time digging in and listen, this is not exciting work. right? You don't get the dopamine hit like you do when you fix a problem. I feel like we should, but when I fix a problem and then I move on to the next one, I get this, hey, I solved something. I helped a borrower, I fixed something, but really what I need to be focusing on is, like the analysis of our work and where are the cracks and what can we do to stop that and then continually move on to the next one until things are smooth sailing.
And it almost becomes a thankless endeavor because when the volume does pick up and things run smoothly, everyone's just like, cool, yeah, stuff happened. They're not looking back and, oh, because we took that action a little while back, we avoided the same
Right.
thing as always.
Right. And
So you
and
have to have that
preparation is
mindset
quiet.
going into this.
No, you have to. Preparation is quiet, right? So a lot of times, I'd be just kind of heads down, looking at trends, looking at reports, looking at KPIs, looking at, you know, uh, you know, processor one could handle this many files, processor two can't. Am I looking at their hours? Am I comparing apple to apples, right? Am I
Mhm.
looking at all the things the exact same way? But also I'm preparing. So preparation is quiet and heads down and it's not very exciting. Getting that dopamine hit because you fix something in the moment and you solve the problem, that's where people think the work really takes place, but it's not. It's
Mhm.
before that even happens, or it's this happened, we're going to make sure it never happens again.
Gotcha. And Tiffany, to get a little bit into the peak of your day to day, because you are now acting as a subject matter expert with a lot of the features that we are rolling out within Charlie, how are you using that proactive mindset to kind of do things differently from how processes have always been handled to ensure that Charlie is basically future proofed for when volumes do pick up?
Yeah. And that's actually a really good question because when I'm going through these files and I'm reviewing these scenarios, I am thinking about all the things in my past. I'm thinking about, my experience, when I received a file, I let me try and word this properly.
Oh, you're good.
I know what needs to happen up front, right, from a sales perspective to
Hmm.
ensure a smooth application process for the borrower. So I'm looking for all of those things in my past that were bumpy, right?
Hmm.
So I'm thinking when I'm reviewing an application, right? I'm going through and I'm saying this isn't filled out. That's going to be a problem later. Let's put a hard stop in. Let's make this a required field. Let's remind the user that they didn't finish this. So I'm doing that in every single area. Although I've never been a salesperson, I know I know exactly what they need to do to get me a really great file. And when I say me, I mean, the entire company, right? So the
Sure.
processor, the underwriter, the closer, and most importantly, the borrower. If we have a smooth process and everything goes well, that's going to be more referrals. People are going to say, "Hey, mortgage company did a great job at closing, right? The process was great." They're going to fill out that survey, and then more business comes in, and they just rinse, wash, repeat.
So that's an interesting aspect of this as well, because when we think of, hey, how is a lender going to prepare for when volume increases? A lot of people think of, oh, just what's the operational impact? But you're referring to a sales impact that if you have your process buttoned up, people will remember that. Borrowers will remember that experience. And the feedback was rampant during the refi boom of, oh, cycle time's taking forever. It, the overall experience wasn't too great. And even when I got my condo during that time, I
Uh-huh.
remember I actually had to switch lenders because just the cycle times and the lack of accuracy in the process was maddening. But who I eventually went with, and the process was very smooth. When it comes time for either refinance or we're looking for something else, I'm going to remember them because they
Yeah.
built that trust when I knew a lot of other people were struggling and they really shone.
Yeah. No, I mean, you are spot on. And honestly, when volume increases, we talk a lot about productivity and capacity, but we don't always talk enough about the people, right?
Mhm.
And I truly believe that people are not simply a resource in the operation, they are the operation. So, um, does adding people solve problems? Sometimes. And sometimes it just highlights what's not working because you get more people and they make the exact same mistakes and you scratch your head and figure out, like, you try to figure out, like, what just happened here.
So that actually segues nicely to the other part of this we want to talk about is automation because everyone promises the moon, but oh, if you automate this, it'll allow you to scale more. How can tech companies best work with lenders to aid in adoption of automation?
Yeah, so every organization wants technology to solve operational challenges, right? That is the main topic at every single user conference right now. And I truly believe that the right technology can absolutely improve efficiency and scalability and visibility and all those things. But the leadership still matters. People still want the interaction. They want the feedback. They want the guidance. And um, you know, I think my opinion is that technology will merely amplify the process they already had if they don't make some serious changes, right?
Sure.
I truly believe that an organization needs to take a deep dive at their process and figure out what's working, what's not working, and really embrace the change. This is the way we've always done it, is the recipe for disaster, especially in this business, because, I think about the things that I've, done throughout the decades, and there's a lot of things that I do almost the exact same way that I did 25 years ago, and that's scary.
No, those habits are tough to break. So to round this out, what would you have as that one message to lenders who are looking to scale that they could be doing right now, whether it's how to properly embrace automation or be more proactive or look retrospectively? What would be your one message?
Well, I mean, the market's going to do what the market's going to do, right? And I think the only thing we can really control is how prepared we are. So when that next surge spikes, the organizations that succeed won't necessarily be the ones with the most people or the biggest budget. So really, the ones who succeed should be the people who spend time preparing their people, their processes, and their technology before the opportunity arrives, right? So take a close look. It's hard. It sometimes gets emotional, right? If you've been working with the same people for a very long time and they're just not the right people, sometimes decisions need to be made. Maybe that's not the right role. Maybe move them
Mhm.
into something else. Maybe take a look at a different platform, a different vendor, right? Something that you could do multiple tasks using that one vendor, right? Try and just really dig down and get uncomfortable and figure out what is working
Yeah.
and what is not. And it's hard, especially when you were the one that wrote the processes, right? It's hard
Yep.
to really look back and say, hey, this maybe isn't working, and it's okay. It's part of learning, right? Like, how many baskets did hoops did Michael Jordan miss before, like some egregious amounts? Just keep trying and keep going. But definitely, when the time is quiet, that's when the leaders that are planning,
Mhm.
looking at all of their compliance and error reports and surveys from their borrowers. They're really looking at those and they're saying, okay, what can we do better?
Yep. And Tiffany, something you said a few statements back that really caught my attention was the simplicity of those who will be successful are the ones who are planning now.
Yep.
And that can sound as cliche as you want it to be, but you know it's true. And in the age where AI is making our lives so much faster, the borrower experience is changing every single day. New tools are emerging where lenders now have the opportunity to rethink how they can do business. The ones who are going to be the most successful are the ones who are holding up the mirror to their process and saying, are we prepared for the future, whether it's scaling or just operating in this rapidly changing environment? So I love that you brought that up.
Yeah. Because the second best time is now, right? So if you haven't started, you're
Yep,
behind. Just start now.
absolutely. Excellent. Well, Tiffany, thank you so much for joining me today. Looking forward to more of these discussions with you. For those of you tuning in to learn more about what we're doing here at Wilqo, you may visit us at wilqo.com/more info, and you'll be seeing us again very soon. Tiffany, thank you so much again.
Thanks, Tom.
Take care.
You too.